Good afternoon again from Downing Street. Rishi Sunak has said mistakes were made under Liz Truss's leadership and warned that there were difficult decisions to come as he made his first speech outside Number 10. He was officially appointed as the country's 57th Prime Minister a short time ago and the third in 2 months after being invited to form a government by King Charles at Buckingham Palace. Here's Emily Wither.
Enter the latest Prime Minister, the fifth in a little over 6 years, the third of this year. He began by paying tribute to his predecessor.
I admired her restlessness to create change. But some mistakes were made. Not born of ill will or bad intentions. Quite the opposite, in fact. But mistakes nonetheless. And I have been elected as leader of my party and your Prime Minister, in part, to fix them. I will unite our country, not with words, but with action. I will work day in and day out to deliver for you. This government will have integrity, professionalism, and accountability at every level.
Earlier, Sunak was invited to form a government by King Charles at Buckingham Palace. It came after Liz Truss, appointed by the Queen, tendered her resignation to the King and formally recommended Sunak become the next Prime Minister. Earlier, Truss's team snapped a quick selfie, a memory of their short 49 days in office, before she stepped up to the podium for her last address to the nation. Despite being the shortest-serving Prime Minister, there was no apology, striking a defiant tone. She once again highlighted her government's decisive action.
In just a short period, this government has acted urgently and decisively on the side of hard-working families and businesses. We reversed the national insurance increase. We helped millions of households with their energy bills and helped thousands of businesses avoid bankruptcy.
As ministers entered Downing Street this morning for their last cabinet meeting with Truss, the question now is who will be returning. Chancellor Jeremy Hunt is expected to survive the reshuffle, likely a relief for the markets. Sunak's expected to bring in supporters of both Boris Johnson and Penny Mordaunt, the latter said to be pushing for a big job. Sunak supporter, Home Secretary Grant Shapps, will be hoping to stay, and the new PM may want to bring in some of his allies who backed him over the summer, such as Dominic Raab. Sunak has pledged to build a big tent cabinet, telling Tory MPs unite or die. The question in the coming months will be, is the party ready to unite behind their new pin-up? Mark October 31st in your diary, when the government is due to present a budget. Sunak's first big test as he tackles the UK's highest inflation for 40 years.
Emily Wither there. Well, yesterday when Rishi Sunak became leader of the Tory party, he spoke for just 84 seconds at party headquarters, which was deemed by many to be a touch short. Today, as Prime Minister outside Downing Street, out of the car after having seen the King at Buckingham Palace, he spoke for almost 6 minutes. Our policy correspondent Paul McNamara is with me now. Paul, some very big points there made in that 6-minute speech. What was the standout for you?
Yeah, well, there are quite a few. I mean, we got actual policy in there. We got a clear direction of travel of what the country can expect, and we also got a few barbs there at his two predecessors, Boris Johnson and Liz Truss. So let's go to what we can expect. Of course, we still expect that we can get this fiscal statement next Monday. One of the very first points that he made during this was there will be difficult decisions. We can expect, as he's made. The point that he made the whole way through the summer as he was trying to make his pitch to be Prime Minister unsuccessfully then was that there will be tax rises. There won't be tax cuts that Liz Truss promised. We can expect some economic hardship.
And he talked about her energy and her restlessness, which was a sort of barbed compliment, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. And then he also went on to say, you know, there were mistakes that were made. He mentioned her energy and restlessness. Then as he talked about her mistakes, said, not born of ill will or bad intentions, quite the opposite. In fact, but mistakes nonetheless.
But so we can expect more pain. What were the hints in terms of policy that we can expect from him?
Well, look, actually, he made a real point here of talking about the mandate in which the Conservatives were elected in 2019. He said, the mandate my party earned in 2019, not the sole property of any one individual. It's a mandate that belongs to the whole party. He's making the point there, look, A, we don't need a general election anytime soon. It wasn't Boris Johnson that won the general election in 2019. It was the entire party. So give me these 2 years.
Interesting, and briefly, his family wasn't there. I know he keeps them very private, that they weren't there. And also, he didn't talk about his own personal journey as the first British Asian Prime Minister.
No, I think with Rishi Sunak, we can expect a lot more policy.
Paul McNamara, thank you very much indeed. Well, joining me now from Westminster is the Conservative MP, Hugh Merriman, who supported Rishi Sunak for leader. Hugh Merriman, thanks very much for coming on the programme on this, another historic day in British politics. He said in his speech, did he not, that he has to rebuild the trust of the nation, but also the trust of the party. How does he do that?
Well, when he spoke to us all as MPs yesterday, he got a great reception because he talked about the fact that we have to unite or we'll be finished and we won't win the next general election. And that stark reality, I think, has come through to colleagues. So, and what you heard from him this morning was a very sort of serious statesman-like approach to the problems that we face, and that he's going to tackle them and he's not going to shirk it. And I think that should reassure everyone in the country, because we have to be honest, as a party, we've put the country through a lot. And I think now things should be a lot more stable, a lot more calmer, a lot more policy focused. And in my view, we've now finally got the right person for the job.
Because so much of the conversation in British politics in the last few months, if not years, has been about the internal politics of the Tory party. It's really time to broaden that conversation out to the rest of the country, especially the millions of people who didn't get a vote and who gets to live in number 10 Downing Street.
Well, I think that's a very good point. And the fact that we don't have general elections when we change our party leader means we have even more of a responsibility to deliver on policy, to show people that it's the right thing to do, notwithstanding that they only get their chance to vote at the general election. And I think that's really got to guide us through. You know, we've had a turbulent time. We've not done the best that we could. We've not been focused enough on policy. As a chair of a select committee, that's all I do. And I bemoan the fact that government has not been properly focused on the jobs and delivering on what people need. And I really do think Rishi will do that. He did it during COVID. Remarkable, the amount of pressure that he withstood and delivered and made sure that we got things delivered. He'll do this now as we face this very tough economic climate.
You mentioned the Transport Select Committee, of which you are the chair. We also all know, and he referred to it in his speech, that there's not a lot of money around and there will be some pain to be delivered on the 31st of October. For instance, on transport, do you expect HS2, a massively expensive project, now to be shelved in order to free up some money?
I don't, but that won't be my decision. I mean, when I looked at what he said over the summer...
What are you hearing?
Well, that's the impressive thing about Rishi. We're not hearing anything. We're not hearing who's got the jobs, what's going to be done, because we'll wait for those to be done in the orderly time. He doesn't play games. He's talked about making tough decisions, but doing so with compassion for people. But we may well have to scale back in order, as he says, to make sure that we don't leave people's grandchildren sitting on a burden that they will never be able to pay back. So we've all got to be responsible, and as a party, we've got to be disciplined. We won't get all the projects we've always wanted. We have to collectively take that and lead the country through what is undoubtedly going to be a really difficult period of time.
How does a man who's worth, together with his wife, roughly £730 million, who's had a fairly short career in politics, he only became an MP in 2015, how does he show compassion to millions of people who are going through a very rough winter?
I think he shows compassion in the same way that he did during COVID, when he helped people to stay in their jobs, help businesses to remain in business. That was him acting with compassion. That's what he's all about. He's all about public service, as he talked today, and determination to deliver. Quite frankly, yes, he's been a success in his life. I'd rather someone that was successful in their career who becomes the leader of our country than someone who's failed. So I have no issue with that at all.
OK, Hugh Merriman, thank you very much indeed. Well, let's see how the prospect of a Sunak government is going down with voters. Jane Dodge joins us now from West Bromwich East, a constituency, a marginal seat, which the Tories managed to win in 2019. Jane.
Well, West Bromwich East is one of the dozens of Labour seats that turned blue back in 2019 part of the so-called Red Wall. Tom Watson, the former deputy leader of Labour, lost to a local Conservative, Nicola Richards, but with a small majority of just over 1,500. It was the promise of levelling up, really, that helped swing it for the Conservatives. And since 2019, £25 million has been earmarked for various projects here, including transforming the town centre. But speaking to shoppers this morning, it really was the cost of living crisis that they want to see at the top of Rishi Sunak's in-tray.
Our expenses have gone up, almost doubled, electric, gas, fuel, and our income is still the same. For those on a basic income like us, you know, we're just getting by. It's had a massive impact. So yeah, I mean, I feel sorry for people with young families. You know, where are they going to get the extra food to feed their children?
I think you could listen to the people more, listen to the problems they've got, and perhaps he'll come up with something.
I think this chap, I think he'll come up trumps, but you've got to give him time.
What would you like to see him do first?
So the economy obviously is shambles at the moment, so I'm hoping it brings something that could boost the economy a bit, so yeah.
It was remarkable when Rishi Sunak, after his speech, stood outside that black door for a few minutes. He wanted to go back inside immediately, but actually he had a few minutes for the photographers. And then as the door opened, you heard the roar of applause. And of course, just before Liz Truss and her family had left, the brutal transition of power once again. That's the news. We're back at 7 tonight here from Downing Street with all the latest, also on the cabinet appointments. Thanks for watching. See you then.